Warning, this podcast contains spoilers for Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Hello guys, how you doing?
How you doing, guys?
What's up?
Welcome to our first episode in our movie series called the MTG Movie List.
The list.
This time it's a movie that actually Luke hasn't seen, and with the new movie Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it's a very appropriate because we are going to talk about Rise of the Planet of the Apes. You excited, Luke?
Yay.
Rise up. Rise up.
We all sat down and we watched it together. Me and Luke watched it together, and Joe, you watched it alone in Lakeland, sick.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry you're
All by
sick.
yourself.
All by your lonesome.
Yep.
All right, so let's get right into it. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So, Luke, when this movie was coming out, when you heard about it and you saw the trailers, what did you think about it? Like, what were your expectations? Like,
Why
what's
did
your
you not
history?
see it?
Yeah, why did you not see it, basically, and why are we only seeing it just now?
Well, I hadn't seen any of the Planet of the Apes movies, and I was just like, I could care less.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those things, if you don't really know much about it and you've never gotten into it, it doesn't really interest you when a new version of it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's like if there's some superhero that I absolutely have no idea who he is, and I could care less about him, and it comes out with a sequel, it's like, oh, I still could care less.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was my opinion. I didn't think it was bad or anything. I just didn't know anything about it. Never gotten into it.
Yeah, we actually, me and you actually have sat down and watched the original one a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, your your little impressions of that. Like, what'd you think of that? Just real quick.
I mean, it's always a little hard to go back to movies that are, almost 50 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's always hard to go back and compare them to movies now. I mean, there's always like almost a different mindset you have to enter when judging a movie like that, because obviously they're working with the technology of their day, and they're doing what they can, and I think movies today also have so much more source material to draw from, and maybe not copy, but help improve themselves, maybe because of mistakes that movies before them have made. And concepts that worked that maybe they can implement in a small way that won't take away from the general concept of what they're trying to present. So I think a lot of movies today get assistance from that, and they weren't able to draw from that. But at the same time, I would say that when a movie does it right, like a movie like Ben-Hur, it shows you how original the writers or directors were thinking, or producers. And just how much creative skill maybe they had, and so yeah, I really enjoyed it. The more I think back on it, the more I like the movie. I think it's one of those movies that you see a second and a third time and you enjoy it more, because you start to get more of the details of what was going on that you didn't get the first time, because it kind of blows by you, and then looking back on it, realizing what happens later, you go, oh, wait a minute, that makes more sense now. I wasn't thinking about that. So as I've thought about it, I haven't gotten to watch it again, but I'd like to watch it a second time. I've appreciated it more as I go back and think about it. So yeah, it was, and I think we had said it on another podcast. What I think is so interesting is the universe that they set up in the original one really sets up for these movies they're creating now. And we haven't watched the second and third old ones. Isn't there there's two or three?
There's 4 more. Yeah, there's 5 in total. We have 4 more to watch.
Yeah. So I haven't watched the sequels to the old ones.
Well, actually, Luke, there's only 1 sequel and then I think 3 prequels. So
wow.
Well, I haven't watched the other ones. But
yeah.
I've only watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes and the original Planet of the Apes, but. So based on that knowledge, not having watched those other movies, I thought it was so cool, the concept that they established in that movie with the date and the way the space travel worked. It's so neat what kind of a universe it opens up, and to me it's almost like, why in the world have they not made these movies before? Rise and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it seems like a perfect thing to build off of.
Right.
A cool character base that you can make almost whatever story you want out of. And so yeah, I think it's a really cool idea.
Yeah. Joe, did you grow up with the originals or?
Yeah. Yeah, my mom was kind of a fan of Charlton Heston.
Oh yeah.
So I watched the first one and the ones after that on VHS back in the late 90s. And I always thought the same thing. Oh man, there's the humans dressed up in some kind of, well, at the time it was award-winning makeup. You know, I don't think it won. I don't think it won an award, but it was nominated. So I knew a lot about what Planet of the Apes was, the story behind it. So when Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out, I was a little hesitant because I am a hater of sequels. Or remakes and reboots. Like I'm not always into that. Especially after they tried. You guys forget about the Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes, which I watched it as a child.
I tried to.
So I didn't hate it when I was a child, but I watched it again recently, and I was like, oh my, this is Tim Burton. What have you done?
Yeah, not good.
So. What did I think of Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
No, we were just getting your thoughts on the original one, if you've seen it.
Yeah, I liked them. I've seen all 5 of them. The first one's the best, and then the rest are just stories about. One's like a random story after, and then it's you should watch them just to say that you watched them. But there's nothing really to write home about it. The first one revolutionized sci-fi films because it was unique. It's like Luke said, it did open up the universe with we're that far ahead. I mean,
yeah, it was
2,000 years.
3,000 and 900 and something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's scary how far away it was, So
yeah,
really cool.
And,
I also saw them at a very young age. I watched them on my own, and they came on the Sci-Fi Channel back in the day, and I actually really loved them. I only remember the first one's really the only one I've come back to over and over again, but the other ones I haven't seen in a long time, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing them again. But it fit the bill perfectly for me because I really liked Twilight Zone and just how the movie is written and just the way they tell the story and the way things are revealed are a lot similar to the Twilight Zone. It's one of my favorite shows, so anything similar to that, it's always a great thing. So yeah, looking forward looking at this movie coming out, seeing the trailer. I'll surprisingly, I wasn't very interested in it. It just Rise
of the
Planet of the Apes. It just didn't appeal to me. Just seeing I didn't see how the apes were going to take over the world. I thought they were just going to wrap it all up here, and we're going to see how they enslave humanity, and something very different happens, but yeah, I mean, I ended up seeing it in the theaters because I heard it was good. I heard word of mouth spread, and people told me, oh, it was actually very good. And so I saw it, and I was very surprised. So let's get into it.
I didn't
Luke,
see it in theaters. I saw it right when it came out. Yeah.
Oh, right, on Blu-ray or DVD?
Yeah.
All right. What made you see it finally? Just because it was out and it was convenient? Or
yeah, it was cheap. It was cheaper. I didn't hear the word of mouth that I think you must have heard, because I heard mixed reviews about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't do bad. I think it made it was right under $500 million worldwide, so it didn't do terrible in theaters. I think it was kind of a surprise hit in 2011 when it came out, because it was after the summer. I think it was late, third quarter. But it was just, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Corey liked it way more than I liked it, but my wife.
James Franco.
No, it wasn't really James Franco. See, that's the interesting thing about it. It was marketed as a James Franco movie, and I would have to say that Andy Serkis steals the show. Because I watched it last night as critically as I possibly could, guys. I sat
Why?
down.
Just all right.
I sat down with the Joseph critical eye because I was by
Arms
myself
crossed.
and feeling like crap. And you know what? Andy Serkis, like, he brought the character of Caesar, the ape, or the chimpanzee. He brought that character to life in a way that no one has done before. Everyone has tried to bring the character of Caesar to life, even in the old ones, because Caesar wasn't really like, an actual, like he was, he was dead, of course, at the time the old ones were made because it was so many years in the future. But what he did was, it was almost Oscar worthy, like his performance as a CGI character, because I really think that I watched some of the special features and he did basically everything, he was in that little like suit, doing everything, doing all the motions and all of that stuff. And I thought it's an awesome character. Like I just loved Caesar, and he to me was the main character, and James Franco was his co-actor, like companion. Even though I really like James Franco, he did a great job with his role, and I mean, it couldn't have been easy acting with Andy Serkis and not seeing the monkey. But I liked it, and it exceeded all the expectations that I had formed for it, and it's gotten me excited for now. We got Dawn, and they've already talked about they've got a couple more after Dawn that are going to be coming out too. So they're starting to maybe reboot the whole series, which is cool. I had to add some technology to it, make it more realistic, all sorts of stuff. What did you guys think?
Well, I guess since you went first, let's leave the mystery here. Since Luke's the newbie, we'll see where he comes down on this movie. But seeing it originally, when I saw it in the theaters, I was very surprised by it. Like, I think the movie was marketed almost like a really intense kind of, almost horror-esque, like a thriller. I didn't expect the kind of emotional story that was told. Yeah. It's very much it's not even like a man and his monkey. It's like a story of, almost growing up. Like Caesar he's a teenager, and like it's brought through so wonderfully by Andy Serkis. I echo your thoughts. He was incredible in that movie. I don't know what award they would give him, but they need to make one up just so they can start giving him awards, because he knocks it out of the park with that.
Well,
I really feel his emotions when he's doing these facial expressions as Caesar. Just, it's incredible. Like when he's sad, in that one scene where John Lithgow's character and James Franco's dad, when Caesar defends him and the guy comes after him and he realizes kind of like what he's done, that look of fear and just and shame is just like so good. It really just like touches me. And I really didn't expect that. I just expected this to be just let's see a movie where a bunch of humans get the crap beat out of them by apes, and it was just a incredible human story that I just really exceeded my expectations, subverted my expectations too. It was just
it did
really
get
well
nominated for an Oscar, so
visual effects.
It didn't win. Yeah, it didn't win, but it did get nominated. So
yeah,
because the visual effects were, they were right on. They were good.
Do you know what it lost to?
I can't remember. 2011. I can look it up while we listen to Luke.
Yeah,
what he has to say.
Yeah. Luke, where do you come down on this movie?
I guess I have a lot of thoughts on it. I guess the hardest part is saying them in the right way. I enjoyed the movie to start.
Okay,
to start off, I did like the movie a lot. I thought it was an excellent movie. I thought James Franco did a really good job. I think he portrayed the character that he was meant to portray in a good way. I think he had the right emotions. I thought it was a little interesting. I don't know how spoiler alert we're going to get on this.
Spoiler. This is a spoiler cast. Well, this isn't a spoiler cast, but we're going to spoil this movie.
Well, at the very end, well, not the very end, but really close to the very end, they're testing the second version of the drug. I think it's 2014 or 214.
Something. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
But it's the second version. I know that the first one was 13 and then the second was 14. And then he it seemed a little strange to me how he, because like the whole movie, you get this impression that he's a complete proponent of the drug. He doesn't care how cutting edge it is. He's willing to pretty much do whatever it is. I mean, he doesn't want to hurt anybody, that's for sure, but he's willing to go out on the edge with this drug, and even if it means his father, which I know he had the right intentions for what he was doing with his father, but for me personally, it was a little bit of a stretch as to why he would give his father the drug when he didn't really know what it was going to do. I mean, yeah, he was afraid of losing his father to the illness, but to me, I would be more afraid of losing my father to an experimental drug than, I mean, I guess at least having your father there is, I don't know if I'm saying it the right way, but it seemed like it was a bit of a stretch for me at that part. But to my point, I was saying at the end, the CEO guy of the company or whatever, his boss, is pushing him like, oh yeah, we got to get this thing out. And it was weird to me how he was like immediately changed. He was like, well, maybe we don't need to do that. And it was like, here he was pushing it, and I didn't think that he had seen like enough negative effects of the drug yet to have that reaction. So I know I'm nitpicking here, and we're talking broad spectrum, but that was just one thing I remember thinking last night when I was watching it. Like, wait a minute, that seemed like kind of a quick turn, kind of like we've talked about with like Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight and stuff, like quick turns that happen. But yeah, and the other thing was, I guess for me it was a little bit of a stretch, and maybe it's just because I'm new to the Planet of the Apes thing. The facial expressions of the apes, it was to me like, I understand like their brain power went up, but how would they know to make those exact facial expressions? Like, I guess we just assume if apes are related to us some way in the gene pool that they will make the same facial expressions. But for me, and I guess of course it translates in a movie, but maybe I'm thinking too much into this, but for me, like, why would a sad look for a human be the same sad look on an ape? I know.
Well, the saying, monkey see, monkey do. That's what the saying is. So
Quite possibly.
But yeah, I guess. But like, it seemed like some of the things he did, like you were saying when he attacked the guy, like that's the first time I think he may have had that emotion ever. And so, I mean, had he seen someone else attack someone else and then him get attacked back, and I don't know. I'm nitpicking, like I said, but that's what this podcast is for.
That's right. That part was interesting for me because it was almost like his primal instincts took over. Like when his emotions kicked in, he became violent. Like, which Caesar and the rest of the entire movie was never violent. It was the first time he was ever violent towards someone. It was to protect someone, and he was overwhelmed by emotion. And it wasn't until John Lithgow's character was called out his name to stop him when he realized what he was doing. He was like, wow. And so it was almost like, it is interesting. It called back to like earlier in the movie where Caesar doesn't exactly see himself as an animal, and he doesn't see himself as a human. It isn't until like the end of the movie where he kind of starts to associate himself with apes and actually cares for them. But at this point in the movie, he sees that dog, and he sees an animal, and he sees the leash on his neck, and he has to ask James Franco the question, "Am I a pet?" And to which he responds, "No, you're not a pet." And so it's like he's in that weird middle ground, and to see that kind of fight between his quote unquote humanity and his animal side, that was a really interesting juncture at that point, which I think was nicely done. But yeah, I can definitely see what you're talking about with the part earlier with how he was so unwilling to move forward with the experimental drug when he didn't really have any reason for it. I mean, you could say that the earlier one caused his father to die, but he said he had the solution to it. And his father, John Lithgow's character's father, stopped him before he could use it. He grabs his hand, he says no. And so there wasn't really any telling whether or not that was the cure or not, so he didn't have much of a reason not to move forward with it. So I don't know.
Well, what was kind of weird about it was, like, I think along the timeline it seemed like it was about a 7-year thing, and it's strange like how 7 years this guy had been researching this and had believed in it, and it almost become like his religion for him to, like, I have to do this for humanity because this is going to make the whole world a better place because it will cure all these brain diseases. And then all of a sudden, well, maybe we should wait on this. It's like, what, really? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
thought this was like your everything. Like, this was your whole world. Here you've been caring for this monkey for 5 years, and all of a sudden, maybe we should chalk back on those tests. So yeah, nitpicking,
Cool.
but
Yeah,
um,
that's fine.
the other thing that I had to say was, you guys were talking about the graphics, and if you're listening to this podcast, hopefully you've listened to some of our other podcasts, including our Transformers podcast. And in that one, we were talking about graphics as well. And Jordan had some issues with the graphics, and how he was saying, I don't know if it was Joe or he had said about how the goal of any movie with CG should be that the CG should blend in so well that it doesn't detract from the movie. And honestly, for me, it detracted a little bit.
Okay.
The
It's
movement,
2011, though, CGI, so
that
it's
wasn't
not
that
like,
long ago.
I mean,
See,
so
see, what I'm comparing
3
it to
hours,
is
3
movies.
years.
What I'm comparing it to is movies that I've seen in 2011 and 2010. And for me, I've seen a lot of movies where I didn't notice the graphics. Like even Spider-Man, for me, it didn't detract. Spider-Man 3, like, I thought, there's a lot of problems I have with Spider-Man 3, but I thought the graphics were really well done.
Well,
And
but Spider-Man 3 didn't have a completely CGI character like it as the main character, though, right? Did it?
when Spider-Man's flying around New York City, it's 100% a CGI character. And I'm saying I thought that it looked completely real and realistic. And to me, I know it's a very difficult thing to do in CG, but like I said, I mean, we're judging a movie, and for me, I started to notice it. It didn't look completely like a monkey, and I know it's a very difficult thing to do, but for me, like, and I noticed a little bit in the trailer for the new Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and I don't know. I guess maybe my expectations are too high for what CGI graphics should do, but I just think like they should look better. Like, I know in the trailer for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, one of the apes is riding a horse, and he's got like a AR-15. And to me, it's just, I wasn't completely buying it, and it's just such an important part of a movie that relies on CG so well. Like, you really got to buy the characters that are being portrayed in 100% CG. Like Lord of the Rings, Gollum, he's 100% CG, and I think I can't even tell the difference between him and the regular characters. Like, that's another example. Like, Lord of the Rings was before 2011, and I
Yeah.
completely bought him. And I don't know. I mean,
I can see where you're
not
coming
that
from
not
here.
that there aren't good graphics. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. Like, they're excellent graphics, but there's just something about them that just isn't quite right for me. Kind of like it was for you with Transformers.
I can see where you're coming from here. When it comes to this movie, like, I can totally see your point. Like, what I praise the most about the movie is the motion capture performance and his work with it and the emotions that come through the CGI character, which that is what allows me to be drawn in. But sometimes I agree with the other monkeys that aren't Caesar. Caesar, I think, is I'm usually pulled in when I see Caesar, but the other ones where they're just monkeys and they're kind of just dead-eyed, before their actually enhanced intelligence kicks in. I do see, like, oh, they're just CGI creations, which not they're not badly done, but I think when it comes to movies, when it's portraying something real, portraying something that you see, it's harder. I think it's easy to portray a robot to look pretty decently good in a CGI movie because we don't have anything to compare it to other than, like a cartoon or something. Like, these, like, they don't exist in our real world. And like, when we see like an ape, we obviously don't believe that it's a real ape, and so it kind of does stick out. And so I can see where you're coming from with that one. I think they're going to continue to improve on stuff like that. It's like when we see like CGI people, like Tron Legacy, like when they do Sam Flynn, when they do like his CGI counterpart, it looks off because it's a human being. I mean, even though it's really well done, like, but it's that uncanny valley that we're at, where just it's close to being real, but there's that offness. It's like kind of creepy.
Well, it's human nature, I think, especially when we know something's fake, to study it
Yeah.
and really look for those things that are unnatural. And I feel bad for nitpicking a movie because I know those guys who work on the CG work so hard and they did a great job. Don't get me wrong. It's just there's just something slightly off about it. I don't know if it's like the shading on his hair or something that's just like I'm not completely buying that that's a real monkey. And so yeah, I mean that's probably my biggest complaint about the movie. But overall, I really liked it. It builds off what was a great original movie, the only other one I've seen. But
Well, let's go into another question for you guys. One of our best and worst parts. What are some of the parts that really stuck out to you as outstanding, and parts that stuck out to you as subpar or bad? Joe, do you have anything for that one?
Uh, Probably that the last scene between James Franco and Caesar. I think when they know, I mean, when they both characters know kind of what has to happen.
Yeah.
Um, I think again, like we've talked about it a few times, just the emotion that the movie packed. It's crazy how compassion and arrogance are like the main contributing factors to everything just goes completely and totally haywire. Um, but other than that, I don't. I'm trying to think back. I didn't really like. Nothing else really stood out to me, like because I've seen it. I've seen it too many times. I've seen it like 4 or 5 times now. So nothing really else like stood out as like a moment better than another. I just liked it. To me, it's like I think it got like a 80 something percent, and that's kind of what I would give it. I'd give it like a B as a movie. So, what stuck out to you, Jordan?
One of my favorite moments in the movie. I already touched on that part where he defends John Lithgow's character. I think that's really strong. But one of the I'm a sucker for in movies where they show changing of the seasons and changing of the times in like these quick cuts. So that scene where it starts off, he's like in his young years. Caesar, he's still very young, and it's his first time they take him to the Redwood Forest. Was that what it's called?
Yeah.
And the first time he takes him there, he's like, he's just really young and just really happy and just like so full of life, and so he's climbing up the tree and they transition from season to season. It's supposed to be like 5 years going by. I just think it's so well done, very exciting and beautiful scene to watch, and him leap from tree to tree as he grows down, and he leaps from the tree, you see him like an older Caesar, and you kind of see the questions on his face. You see kind of like the frustrations as like of like who he is just in that scene, as to not only in what happens, but you just see it in his face. And it's awesome. I love that scene. Stuff that kind of stuck out to me is why, or just kind of not that great, is actually in the same scene. There's one of them is like in the same scene where that happens. My favorite part, and my like one of my things I'm like, why is this? In that scene, he looks at James Franco's character, and I forgot the girl's name, but Latika from Slumdog, and he like looks at him like he's jealous, and he like kind of goes down and like gets dirt on them. I didn't see what the point of that was. That never comes up again in the entire movie. I mean, maybe they get distracted by other things, but like it never comes up that he's like jealous or anything, like contempt for the relationship. So that just seemed out of nowhere to me. Another small nitpick I have was with the orangutan monkey knowing sign language. For me, that was a little bit of a stretch for me, and it kind of just it seemed a little surreal from what was going on. I know later on he talks and says Caesar is home, but for me, like that I was fine because of the sci-fi that was going on with in the Caesar's like blood, and that just made sense to me. But this is supposed to be a regular orangutan, yeah, maybe a circus orangutan, and so when he signs like humans know like smart apes, it's like, wow, really? This ape is really smart. But
technically speaking, orangutans are
orangutan.
They're a little bit smarter than chimpanzees.
Sure.
So technically, scientifically.
Yeah, that's fine. And I can believe that, but just within like what was going on, it was just kind of hard for me to grasp him and this orangutan having these conversations, and like almost seeming like this orangutan's as smart as Caesar is, which is incredibly smart. And yeah, just I didn't really buy it completely, but that's not a huge nitpick. That's just a little thing. But overall, yeah, love the film. I'd probably rank it a little higher. I'd probably give it like an 8.5. I really enjoyed it. What about you, Luke?
I was trying to think back. I think my favorite parts, it wasn't really one part, but parts, were the interaction between James Franco and John Lithgow. I thought John Lithgow did a really good job.
He was a great actor, man.
Yeah, I thought, man, he just really sold it for me. But like from the first point when he's introduced and he's playing the piano and they interact and you slowly get the idea like that he has no idea really what's going on and obviously has Alzheimer's and then the next day he's asking about his keys and that progresses and then he takes the shot and then he's so much better and he's playing the piano and he's getting along with Caesar and they're like the best of buds. And then I thought it was kind of moving when Caesar leaves and the shot is pretty much completely gone out of his system from the antibodies and he's just like completely out of it and he sold it really well for me. And then like James Franco, their interaction, you could just see like the pain and it sold to me like both the characters. It just made me feel for the story more and that's why I guess I had my problem with James Franco changing his opinion later, because it was like how sold he clearly was on what he was doing because of the pain he was having to experience at home. I mean, it's a little bit personal because I had a grandmother who lived with us for almost 10 years who had Alzheimer's, and I didn't have to care for her like my mom did, but I understand, at least from seeing it, like from seeing my grandmother and what a toll it took on her and trying to talk to her and asking her questions and her not remembering things. And I just know how frustrating that was. So it was kind of a personal character for me when I was watching the movie. And so that was my favorite part because I thought James Franco played that part well. It made perfect sense that he would, use his knowledge to create a drug that he was hoping would heal that part of the brain that would regain memory and motor skills.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've said all that, I've kind of forgotten my least favorite part that I was picking out.
And I'll give you time. I can add on to that. Like I thought it was, very compelling stuff. Like that whole story with him having Alzheimer's. But I think it was a really cool moment in the movie. Like it kind of like showed also Caesar's connection with this character. Like even though he was upset after like finding out the truth about Caesar, about the truth about his mother and about his origins, but when he's like at home, like kind of he's doesn't want to eat his fruit or anything, but when he sees John Lithgow's character with trying to cut his eggs with the fork that's he's holding the wrong side, he grabs his hand and he corrects him. He puts the fork the right way up, and you see concern in his eyes. You see and he looks at James Franco with that voice, like with those eyes, that something's wrong. So it's just really cool to see that, like how another just really humanizing moment for all those characters. Just really powerful stuff.
But yeah, the emotions of that movie are, I think my favorite part, and probably what really, as an emotional woman, my wife just, I think, loved all of that aspect.
You're calling me an emotional woman?
Yeah, I am.
It's fine. There's an emotional woman in all of us, even in you, Joe.
No,
I've seen Les Mis with you. I know there's an emotional woman in you.
No comment.
I bet there isn't.
But my getting back to my least favorite part, I think the part that I could have done without was the zookeeper character at the conservatory for the apes. I understand, like, I guess they were trying to play off of the original movie, but I just felt like they took it too far. Like with him bringing his friends in and goofing off, it was just like, okay, we get it. You're trying to make us not like this guy. We get it. He's an abusive character. Like, obviously, he's going to end up having something bad happen to him. Little surprise, he ends up dying, and it's his own fault that he dies. But it got annoying. It was like, let's stop showing scenes of this idiot acting like an idiot. Like, we get it. Like, show a couple things. He's an idiot, establish that, and then, like, let's keep going with the characters we like. Caesar, James Franco, so on.
I completely agree with you. Like that, it's just so unbelievable that a character could act like, especially a character of his age, and he's just playing into his stereotype because this actor Tom Felton, he's famous for playing Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter, which does the same thing. He just shows up in a scene just so you can hate him, and he just acts outrageous. And so yeah, I didn't need that.
He's good at it.
Yeah, yeah, I guess he is, but I didn't need that. I didn't really appreciate the line. They feel. I guess they felt
Here's the
they
thing.
had to throw that in there. That line,
But
"Get your filthy paws off me, you damn dirty ape." Even though, like, I know it's a callback you gotta have, but I didn't need it.
it's an iconic line that I mean, it's a line that's been. I mean, people use it all the time. I still use it.
Yeah,
But what
you still use
Walking
it?
down the
But
street.
here's the only thing I have
Save
like
your wife.
to rebuttal that is, or to say is, if they weren't so abusive, could you really at the end of the day cheer for the apes or the monkeys? You know, like I understand what you're saying because it was like over the top. It was just kind of ridiculous, but
Well, I
I
think you
mean-
could cheer for the apes. I mean, they're not out for revenge. They're not out to hurt people. They're just trying to get free. They're trying
Yeah.
to get to the woods. They're not
Right,
trying
but
to
if
like
they-
start a
but if-
revolution at this
But what
point.
if okay they was just like this these zookeepers were just like it was like a spa treatment for the apes. You know, they had like they were like doing their nails and like they were doing all sorts of fun stuff with them. I mean, would they want to be free then still? What do you think?
No, for me, I want that idiot character to be an idiot like he was. I just don't want to see as many scenes of it. It just got annoying. It was like you're just wasting minutes of this movie showing scenes where it's like, okay, where'd you take my cookies? Who took my cookies?
Yeah, he was ridiculous.
It was just too many scenes. Like Joe, I agree that they needed to do that. I do agree with you there. It just for me, it was just a waste of minutes.
Yeah, like the thing is, it's like I agree with you, Joe, that that those scenes do need that sort of tragedy, and they need a character to bring that home, and a character you're supposed to not like. But they probably needed to do it in a more believable way and have him be a character that's not just so obvious and so just stereotypical cartoon. You're supposed to hate this character. He's despicable, but make it a real life person. Make it a person who might mistreat animals like in a way that's not just so over the top and in an unbelievable way. I know there's people out there who are sick, but I didn't buy it from this kid. They needed it to be like a kid who I thought was deranged, not just a jerk. Because I don't think no one's that much of a jerk. I don't know. I just didn't buy it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But let's go ahead and close out, and you want to each give our closing thoughts of the movie. Luke, you want to go ahead?
Closing thoughts. Overall, excellent movie. Not my favorite movie ever by far, but definitely a quality movie that's definitely worth seeing again. I'd give it a solid 8. Yeah, definitely worth seeing again. I'm excited for the next one, especially the cast in the next movie. I think it looks excellent. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it this weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah, I haven't seen this movie that many times. It's like my third time seeing it, and I really like it. I see different things about it each time I see it, and I think it's just a very excellent movie. Minor nitpicks aside, I'm really excited to see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes this weekend. I'm hearing good things, but I'm trying to temper my expectations like I did for this one, and I'll probably come out surprised. But yeah, excellent movie. 8.5, great. Joe?
It's my third or fourth time seeing it, and
Board.
I'll probably give it. I give it an 8.
Mm-hmm.
And as a Planet of the Apes kind of fan, I'm happy that they're kind of redoing it with they're actually going to maybe do it in chronological order instead of doing one, then a prequel, then a sequel to the original, and then back and forth, kind of what they did in the olden days. Kept you guessing. But it is cool. It's what's cool to me to see is like we've all seen now Planet of the Apes, and now you kind of know what happened. Like, oh, that human spoke. Oh, that ape spoke. Oh, you kind of see the big picture, and it'll be interesting if they go all the way with it. We'll see. This one was such a success. That's why they're doing the next one, and they've already got one on the book. So, um,
They have 3,000 years of continuity they can do.
yep.
I think that's a good point, Joe, because it does kind of free them up to kind of do whatever they want now because they've kind of put those building blocks in place. So yeah,
Yep.
it'll be interesting to see because I think it could go really right or it could go really wrong.
Yeah. Well,
So
what
here's
you're
cheering
gonna
for it to go the right way.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I would highly suggest if you haven't seen the original five, just or watch them. And just this one is a remake of one of them. I won't tell you which one. You can let us know when you find that out. Comment on our page.
Yeah, I told that going into this, I told Luke that for me, I thought the required viewing for seeing Dawn is the original Planet of the Apes and Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I definitely see those before you see the new one, at least Rise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching and reviewing
One
this
movie
movie.
down, so many more to go.
So many more.
Enjoyable movie, thank God.
The MTG great movie list is an extensive one.
We've
And it
seen
will
some rough
continue.
ones, but this was not one of them.
No, this is definitely a high point. But thank you guys for listening, and go see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. We'll be having our spoiler cast, and it'll be up within the next week. Take care, guys.